Joining us now is IPA Research Fellow Mia Schlicht. Mia, great to see you. Thank you so much for joining us. Let's start with climate alarmism. The UK Health Secretary, or Security Agency rather, is warning that climate change anxiety is fueling mental health issues among young people. And rather than urging caution or some perspective, the report suggests yoga and climate cafes, well, they are the solution. I want to get your thoughts on that in a moment, but here is Donald Trump tearing apart climate alarmism.
Everything was a new scam, green, green, green. Look, I'm all for the environmental everything. I'm all for climate change. You know, they have new word, climate change. Used to be global warming. It's global warming. Well, that didn't work because it started coming down. They did the global cooling thing. Then they just said, we can't keep up with this. It's too much. So we'll go, perfect words, climate change. They're covered. If it rains, if it snows, if it's warm, it's climate change is destroying the world, remember? The world was supposed to have been gone 2 years ago. They gave us 12 years, Howard, to live, right? 12 years. But that was 14 years ago. The world was going to burn up, but it got actually much cooler. They know these people. It's a little conspiracy out there. We have to investigate them immediately. They probably are being investigated.
So Mia, talk to us about the UK Health Security Agency's solution to climate anxiety. I would suggest a solution would be listening to Donald Trump.
Yeah, look, I loved Trump's take on this one. I thought it was hilarious, but he is right. A lot of this climate change policy and his green agenda, it is the biggest political lie that's ever been sold. And they themselves don't take themselves seriously, because you've got to be kidding me if we've got this report coming out saying we have this flux of children in schools leaving with these mental health issues. And I think the solution is that these kids should be going out doing yoga and hanging out in climate cafes, and that might solve the mental health crisis. Like, they are just not serious about this. The climate change agenda was never about helping the environment. At the end of the day, it is all about centralised control. This is what it's about. The climate agenda was put forward to control what kind of food we can eat, how we heat our homes, what kind of cars we can drive, how we control the electricity grid. At the end of the day, that's what this is about, and I'm concerned that there are many parents who have no idea what kind of climate activism is being taught to their children in school. At the IPA, we've looked into this in Australian schools, because it's not just a phenomenon that's happening in the UK, it's also happening here in Australia, where we have young people leaving schools with these massive amounts of anxiety because they're being told that they might not have a future world to grow up in because the world may end at any given moment. Now, young children just do not have the cognitive ability to deal with such complex ideas, and rather than teaching them the skills of maths, reading, literacy, all of those kind of skills they could then use to deal with these problems, instead we're just creating these climate warriors who just leave school angry. And I don't think that many parents realise that young children are being turned into mini Greta Thunberg activists. And it's such a huge concern when you've got young people no longer believing that they should have children one day because of climate change, all the BS that they've been told. It's a huge concern. I want to talk to you about polling in the UK. New polling is raising further questions about Keir Starmer's standing with his own voters. A YouGov survey shows that almost half of Labor supporters say that he should leave office before the next election. 23% believe that he should step down right now, and a further 22% want him to go before polling day, and a third support him to lead Labor into the campaign. I'm not sure about that at all. Look, it hasn't been a successful period of time for Keir Starmer. I'm surprised that there's anyone that actually wants him to lead in future elections. What do you make of the results? Yeah, I'm not surprised by these results at all. I think Starmer is drowning in woke. He's completely lost control of the borders. The economy is in crisis, crime's out of control. And the reality is that when he won the election, it was a loveless victory. He wasn't so much elected by the people because they were inspired by the leadership. It was more about getting the Tories out of power. So now that he is in office and he's not delivering really any results, I don't think anyone is too surprised, but I think they are quite disappointed because for a long time now, I think many in the UK have felt like they are being left behind and they don't have a leader who is standing up for the UK and for UK values. And that's why we're seeing so many flock to parties such as Reform who actually are concentrating on putting the UK first. But instead we've got globalist leaders such as Starmer who are more focused on everything else that's happening in the world, that he's not concentrating on getting his own house in order.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And I want to talk to you about Nigel Farage in just a moment. But first of all, can I get your take on the recent figures from the IPA that show migration to Australia has hit record levels? More than 415,000 permanent and long-term arrivals were recorded in the first 9 months of 2025. Now, at the same time, revised UK immigration statistics show that the number of British nationals leaving the country jumped from 77,000 to 257,000 after the Office for the National Statistics changed its methods to track interactions with public authorities rather than surveys. Mia, can you talk to us about what's happening in the UK and here in Australia?
Well, yeah, we're seeing some parallels in the UK and Australia about problems with immigration. Now, in Australia, we are fortunate because of under leaders such as John Howard and Tony Abbott, they managed to get illegal migration under control, and now we're facing a legal migration crisis. But unfortunately, in the UK, they are battling with both of those issues at the same time, which is really compounding the immigration crisis over there. But in Australia, we're seeing these similar frustrations brew, where there is this rapid influx of migrants coming into the country, and this story is being told that that's helping to grow the overall economy, and therefore most people will be better off. Now, that's just not true, because yes, whilst it might grow the overall economy, the slice that each individual is receiving is getting significantly smaller. Now, that's leading to many economic issues, social infrastructure issues, and it's leaving people here in this country and in the UK worse off. Now, the problem is that if anyone dares to talk about this issue, you're immediately labelled as a racist. So therefore, it shuts down all debate on the immigration crises. But that's just not true, because at the end of the day, it's a vote of confidence that people want to come to Australia or that people want to come to the UK. It is a testament that people want to come to those countries. But you have to do it in a controlled manner to ensure that everyone who is here, whether that's a new arrival or someone who was born here, can enjoy everything that our country has to offer. And that's just currently not happening. And that's why we're seeing people coming out. In Australia, the IPA did some polling, and over 70% of Australians said that they thought that immigration needed to be paused until we got the economy and social infrastructure under control. But so many of our political leaders just aren't listening to that.
No, they're not. Let's talk about Nigel Farage. He's really sharpening his pitch. He says that Reform UK would strip EU citizens of their rights to claim benefits. Now, this would be part of a wider plan to cut £20 billion a year from government spending. So Nigel Farage wants to renegotiate the Brexit deal to make it happen, calling the current agreement one-sided, and he's also proposing deep cuts to foreign aid and almost tripling the NHS surcharge for visa applicants. Mia, what do you make of this?
Well, Nigel Farage certainly knows what he stands for, and he knows that that's putting the UK first. And if you agree with him or not, at least you know where he stands on these issues. At the end of the day, the Tories bungled the Brexit deal. Britons voted to leave the EU, and they expected that vote to be honoured. And currently, under the current system, that's just not what's happening. And what I thought was interesting was that the Conservatives' response to this was they said, oh, you can't touch this. We went through so much pain to go through all the details of all of this. And it sends this message of, oh, so because it's too hard, you don't want to fix a system that isn't working. And that's exactly why they're losing voters, because they are tired of hearing their leaders stand up there and say, it's too hard for us to fix this broken system, so we're going to leave it as broken. And I think that's why Farage is seeing so much success going ahead and saying, yeah, it might be difficult, but it needs to be done, because at the end of the day, the UK isn't being put first, and that's what he wants to do. That's the values that he stands on.
Yeah, he certainly knows what he stands for, and he's certainly gaining the support and the momentum. It's not dying off, is it? Looking at the UK local by-elections today, Reform could make even further gains. 7 local council seats are up for grabs. None are currently held by Nigel Farage's party, while the Greens, Conservatives, Labor and Liberal Democrats defend their seats. Mia, what are you expecting? How likely is it that Reform will win some of these council seats?
I think even if Reform doesn't win some of these seats, I think they'll definitely see their voting support go upwards, because that's what we've just seen in the polling for the last number of months now. The Reform is just surging ahead in the polls. They are really the political party to watch in the UK at the moment. The issue for them will be is that they have to hold on to this momentum until the next election to actually see those results turn into seats. But I think if they continue standing by their values and making it very clear what they stand for, I think they will see that success come in droves, because as I mentioned before, I think that people are just sick of having political leaders who are so focused on the global agenda that they don't have any leaders who are there representing their best interests in their own country. And that's where the frustration lies, whether that's the culture wars, whether it's immigration, whether it's crime, whether it's national pride. At least Reform, like them or not, makes it clear where they stand.
Just finally, Mia, there's a stark warning from Britain's Defence Committee. A year-long inquiry says that the country is not ready to defend itself from an attack. I mean, Mia, just how serious is this?
It's very serious, and I think for a long time many countries across the world have, including here in Australia, we have relied on the fact that if we do run into a defence issue that the US will come in and save us. And well, Trump has made it very, very clear that that will not happen anytime soon unless you start pulling your own weight on the defence front. I mean, here in Australia it is critical that we get our defence spending up to 3%, and because we have neglected it for so long, it is very possible that we will have to raise that spending to 5% just in order to catch up. But it's the same issue in the UK as here in Australia, where we need to be investing in weaponry, we need to be investing in defence personnel. But another critical issue is, for so long through our schooling curriculum, young people have been taught this sentiment that in the UK and in Australia we have a history to be ashamed of, and we don't have anything to fight for, and we don't have values to fight for. So I think we'll see a huge struggle actually getting people to sign up and fight for this country if it ever would be necessary.
Mia Schlicht, IPA Research Fellow, thank you so much for speaking with us here on Power Hour. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.